should we go? You say we should get started, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It looks like you just unshared your screen now.
Yes. How did I do that?
Okay. Just go back and do exactly what we did before. Click where it says share screen and click on it again.
There. Okay.
And you're up and you're up and running.
Okie doke. So yes, my name is Janice Croft. I go by Jan most of the time. I'm a licensed mental health care provider at Union Hospital, and I do some work with the Maple Center, which is how we got connected. I've been asked to talk about this topic, and I think it is a very relative topic with today's climate. So I'm presenting this, and I hope it's not too simplified. But I want you to be able to get, because I know that some of these things I'm going to ask you to do sound easy, but they're not. And you probably have heard a lot of them before anyway. So what I'm asking you to do is look at this in a way that maybe you can gather one or two or three or more things take away from this presentation that might help you deal with some of your emotions and feelings, or maybe help somebody else deal with the same kind of thing. So let's get started. This is my first Zoom presentation, so please be patient with me. Michelle's been very patient so far. As therapists, we like to define things, and it puts us a little bit more in power of the situation, we think, so that you're aware of it and you know what it is. So what is loneliness? And the good news, actually, is that it's a feeling, not a fact, okay? We can change this, which is the good news also. It is synonymous with perceived social isolation, not objective isolation. So people can be around a lot of other people and still perceive that they are isolated. And vice versa. Someone can be living alone and feel like they have a lot of social support. So it is the way that we perceive the situation, not the actual situation itself. We define it as a distressing feeling that accompanies a perception that one's social needs are not being met by the quality or quantity of one's social relationships, okay? So it is a feeling that accompanies the perception. Now, loneliness can come up when we're around a lot of people but feel like we don't fit in, when we're around a lot of people but we don't get the support or connection that we're looking for, maybe when we lose an important person in our life, or when you're alone and you want to be with others, and that's when loneliness does come up. We do need, as humans, some kind of social support, but there's no wrong or right social support. Okay? People feel satisfied with different types of social circles, friends, and relationships. So someone who is like me, maybe surrounded by animals, would maybe not feel lonely at all. Whereas someone who is a more people-oriented person really craves that personal contact. What matters is how you feel. Okay, so it's not whether you're really alone or not, it's how you feel about the situation. If you feel supported and understood, your relationships are probably in pretty good shape. But if you're feeling lonely, you might be missing some important pieces in your relationships, and we can try to look at some of that. And here's a distressing thought, that loneliness can create more loneliness. For example, if you're feeling lonely, it might make you feel like you don't fit in. And if you don't feel like you fit in, that will make it harder to reach out to people, which just kind of confirms the fact that you don't fit in and can make you feel even lonelier. And again, those are thoughts. You're thinking that you don't fit in. And so we're going to try to change some of those thoughts to change the feeling of loneliness. Okay, so the big lesson here is that loneliness is just a feeling. It can be changed. Okay, experts think that it really only takes about 3 or 4 close friends to ward off the negative health consequences of loneliness. So if you have 3 or 4 close friends, that might be enough for most of us to kind of ward off this feeling of being out there by ourselves. Okay, is everybody kind of understanding what I'm saying so far? Can you hear everything? It's going okay?
Yep.
Okay. So after we define it, of course, we want to know who is lonely. And unfortunately, for about 15 to 30% of the population, loneliness is a chronic state. And we all feel lonely once in a while. We all feel sad once in a while. We all feel frustrated once in a while and anxious once in a while, but it's not all the time. We have fluctuations in the way we feel our emotions. So for many of them, it's a chronic state. And I'm sure, and I will present this to you later, how that's increased during this difficult time. So we know that people who are at risk for being lonely are older adults, people who are unemployed or disabled, people who are retired, those who are in poor physical or mental health, and those that live alone. And in the United States right now, we have about 36 million people that live alone. So that's a big chunk of the population that are at risk for loneliness right now. And women are lonelier than men, but unmarried men are lonelier than unmarried women. And these are just statistics. It doesn't mean that we all fit into that category. African Americans are lonelier than Caucasians, and those who are less educated tend to be more lonely than those who have college degrees. Those that are experiencing some changes in their life, like a death or moving or divorce, and particularly those who have low self-esteem. Now, before I present this next slide, I'm almost a little hesitant to present it because of shows some of the health risks of being lonely. And my point in bringing them forward is that if we are aware of them, we might work harder to prevent them. And that's my only case in presenting these. And I don't want you to get too bummed out or scared about them. But if we leave loneliness, unattended, some of the health risks are prevalent. And those are alcoholism, drug use, Alzheimer's progression, cognitive decline and dementia, depression, anxiety, suicide, and increased stress levels, which in itself suppresses the immune system. And of course, there's more. Cardiovascular disease, antisocial behavior, poor sleep quality, and with that comes your inability to function during the daytime like you might like to, and obesity. So that's some of the bad news, but we want to try to prevent some of that from happening. Now, if that wasn't enough, we have to add COVID-19 on top of this. And let's just face it, everything's been more difficult during this time, right? It's become harder to get together. It takes more creativity to do so. I mean, it's harder to buy groceries, for crying out loud, and it's harder to get together for holiday routines, and we can't go anywhere, we can't travel anywhere. So of course, all those has made a difference. And there has been an increase in reported loneliness. And this is across all social and age-related parameters. So whether people are retired or unemployed or married or single, have poor physical health or poor mental health, whether they're Caucasian or African American, all social and age-related parameters have shown between 47 and 50% increase in the amount of loneliness that they feel. That's quite a bit. That is quite a bit. And we also have had an increase in use of social media. And I'm going to get to a little bit of social media a little bit later. And the increased perception of loneliness among older adults that do use social media. Now, the younger adults and kids, of course, have been using social media since they were born, and they're used to it, and they're used to having their relationships on screen. Whereas us older people, and I'm a boomer, so I can say this, we're not used to having our relationships on the screen. We're used to seeing people in real life. And older people who have used social media to try to stay in touch with their family have reported feeling more lonely than they did before, because the drive to want to see them in person is so strong, and they're not satisfied with using social media to make that connection. And that's difficult for some people to conceptualize. And we've all lost some of our social interactions. That's understood. I think we need to rethink the use, and I wish that we, whoever we is, started using this term social distancing. I wish we would have done it the more appropriate manner, and to say it's a physical distancing instead of a social distancing, because there's a difference. And the physical distancing is something we can sometimes do something about. And that, again, gives us a little bit more power. It doesn't make us feel as socially isolated as it might be otherwise. So I'd like to maybe get you to think about that physical distancing term instead of social distancing. And it's time for some humor and for me to take a sip of water. Humor's good. Humor's always good. It's good medicine. Okay. So if you're feeling lonely, another thing that therapists will want to address is why. Okay. So you ask yourself, and this can pertain to someone else too. You ask yourself why you feel lonely. Ask someone else why they feel lonely. Is it because you don't have others around you? Is it because you isolate yourself? And here's one that we can work with too. Do you feel lonely even with you when you are with people, when you are around others? And something that I want to, just emphasize so much is to avoid comparing yourself to others. Okay, appearances are deceiving. So you go on Facebook and you see people around others, you see their families, you see everyone else having a good time, and here you are home alone and not feeling so great. Please don't compare yourself to others on Facebook, because you know they only show their good side. They only show the good things that are happening to them, and it kind of separates us out from others. So I'm going to really emphasize trying to moderate your social media usage. We can find other ways to interact with people. Okay, so what can we do? Well, we can accept that being lonely is real. We can accept that what COVID has done to us is real. There's no sense in denying it. And this is going to sound a little strange, but I'm going to ask you to embrace your feelings. Now, what I mean by that is to accept that you're feeling on any particular day lonely, depressed, sad, anxious, happy, frustrated. Okay, embrace your feelings. And why I mean that is that, do all of you guys remember those inappropriately named finger traps? I think Chinese finger traps, where you put your fingers in the ends, the holes, and you pull real tight. What happens when you pull real tight? You get more stuck, right? Whereas if you kind of lean into one side, you can pull one finger out and then you can pull the other one out. So it just means that sometimes we try to resist so hard the situation that we're in, that we're fighting it and probably making the situation a little bit worse for ourselves. So if you can imagine just accepting it and saying, yep, this is the way it is right now. I'm not feeling okay, but it's okay. And I told myself when I retired, do you guys remember the book, one of the first pop psychology books, I'm Okay, You're Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when I retired, I wanted to write the book, I'm Not Okay, You're Not Okay, but it's okay. Because it's sometimes okay to not be okay. And if we resist it, we might not be able to make the best decisions that we can. Does that sound reasonable? Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Everybody's shaking their head.
Okay. So we also want to be mindful of anything that's going on with your body. Elevated heart rate, dizziness, anything that you're feeling that really might need to be attended to by a physician. So we have that resource. You can think of this time as an opportunity to understand yourself better. We've all done the cleaning. I'm tired of cleaning. I'm not going to go back and re-clean the house now. So there's plenty of time to do other things. And that's what I'm going to mention today. And focus on the opportunities that you do have right now while you're isolated, or at least somewhat isolated, rather than what you've lost. Okay? A lot of places are still doing well, I mean, we can still pick up groceries in the parking lot. You can still pick up books in the parking lot at the library. There's still things that we have. We haven't lost everything. So focus on the positive aspects, I guess. I'm going to get to that a lot more later too. Find ways to connect to everyone that you're around, whether they have social media, whether they have a phone. And we're going to talk a lot about practicing self-care and reframing negative thoughts coming up. So how do we deal with stressful situations? And I think we would all agree that COVID or loneliness is a stressful situation. It presents us with a lot of stress, excuse me, depending on how you define stress. But almost every situation that gives us some stress or high emotion, like anger or frustration, depression even, there's some things we can do about it and some things we just can't do about it. So I try to have clients determine what the situation is, what they can do about it, what they can't do about it. Because in the long run, we only have control of our own thoughts and our own behavior. That's the sad news and the good news too, because we can change our thoughts and we can change our behaviors to make our situation better. So when we talk about controllable aspects, we want to choose a coping strategy that's problem focused. So if you have the situation and you're feeling lonely, there are some things you can do about it, and then there's some things you can't. What can you do about it? Well, you can make decisions. You can seek information from people. You can set goals. You can ask for help. Change your thoughts about the situation, which I said we'll get to later. Those are all things we can do. You can research, you can plan, you can organize, right? Those are things you can do about a situation. What you can't do about a situation, the uncontrollable aspects, we want to choose a coping strategy that's emotion focused, something that's going to make you feel better. And some of the ideas are exercising, yoga, and I've already used humor, relaxation, prayer, journaling, anything that makes you feel better. And this is going to be part of the self-care plan that we get to later also. It doesn't mean that you're not doing something about the situation, okay? You're doing what you can about it with the problem-focused strategies where you're really doing something about it. You're planning, you're researching, you're focusing, you're asking for help, okay? This is what you can't do about it. You can't do anything about the fact that you are alone in your home, isolated. There's part of that we can't do anything about. So that's where this humor and exercise comes into play. And I think it's time for a little bit more humor. How's that for humor, huh? Okay, so going back to some of the stuff that we said before, reaching out to somebody, what we can do about it, and you've done some of these, if not all of them. So we may have to be a little bit more creative, but phoning a friend, of course, reaching out to people. I've reached out to relatives that I haven't talked to in a while, or maybe haven't talked to as much as I have recently. I always figure they see my name come up on the phone, they cannot answer if they don't want to talk to me. I've shared food at distances. It's nice to be able to get outside as long as it's nice and warm. This winter is going to be a little bit difficult, but there's still some places we can get together and have a lot of distance. So that's interesting. And I think the sharing food has become a little bit more acceptable. I don't think that there's been any known cases of COVID anyway that have been food related. So I think that's a little bit more comforting. Be creative with your physical distancing. I've known people having picnics and just sitting outside in the yard with their lawn chairs, and focus on the needs and feelings of others, because sometimes one of the best ways to make ourselves feel better is to make somebody else feel better. Focus on them, not on yourself or ourself, okay? Have you thought about teaching somebody how to Zoom or Skype or FaceTime? I have limited resources on that, but I sure would give it a try with somebody. And you know what? We might just get back to writing letters. Wouldn't that be nice to go back to writing letters? Maybe some of you think so, maybe not so much. All right, now, again, with COVID, this is going to be a little bit difficult, but what community service is doing for us, it can give us the opportunity to cultivate new friendships and social interactions. Oh, okay, hold on just a second, people. I accidentally touched the wrong screen. So there you go, wrong button. But again, community service gives us the opportunity to help other people too, and take the focus off of ourselves so much. So pre and post COVID, this might mean like volunteering with community social services like the food banks, or libraries, or the recycling centers. There are a lot of places in town that we do volunteering within the humane shelter, but some of those aren't accepting help right now. I do know that the Meals on Wheels still need drivers, and they provide you with the necessary gloves, and so that you don't contaminate anything and you don't go into anybody's house. You knock on the door, check on them, see if they're doing okay, and leave food there. And that is still a necessary service right now. The next two I haven't really done much of, but it's something for somebody creative and someone with a lot of time to maybe consider upsetting video conferencing for nursing home residents. You know, having some kids around to video people in the nursing home or assisted living centers, because they're very in need of different social interactions right now. Or consider daily wellness checks on the elderly or disabled. You can maybe consider setting up a phone tree with some of your friends that are more technically savvy, that can get into some of the nursing home residents or other people that just are around the community that you know that might be needing some social interaction. All right, now here's a big one that I want to get to. And we're alone a lot right now. Even if you're married, you're home alone with someone else or family. So really want to try to do some different thinking about this alone time right now. I saw something somewhere about someone saying, I'm not stuck at home, I'm safe at home, which is just a reframing, a changing the way that we think about the situation. And one of my big mantras is, if you can't change a situation, change the way you think about it. Okay, so keep that in mind when we talk about some of these, and we'll get to them in a minute. The first thing I think is important is keep a routine. Make a routine, keep a routine. Okay, still get up out of bed, still go shower, or do the shower at night. Take your meals at the time that you normally would. Do things like that. What that does is give us, it makes us be more proactive about the situation. Okay, and it makes us take back some of our power, so we don't give this loneliness or the COVID all of our power by saying, well, I just can't do anything, there's nothing to do. Okay, take back some of that power, get that routine going, and work on it. If you do find a creative outlet, something different. I mean, it doesn't have to be, the Great American Novel. I thought I had enough time to write the Great American Novel that I haven't gotten started on yet either. But don't get overwhelmed by reading Facebook posts about what everybody is doing. Okay, and this is kind of like the technology. Use some technology, but not too much, not too often. Don't get overwhelmed by seeing their posts on their artisan breads and designer cupcakes, or their families doing exercise together, okay? This can really create frustration if you don't have a perfect product come out of this isolation. And we don't need to put that pressure on ourselves, because you know darn well that those people with the bread photos had several, if not many, very flat loaves before they got the perfect one to post their most perfect effort, right? You know they did. So don't feel compelled to compete with Facebook posts, okay? You also don't have to write the Great American Novel. We don't have to be uber productive with our newfound free time. So allow yourself to do what you need to do in order to get through the day with as much ease and grace as possible. Okay, ask for help if you need it. That's not a weakness, but a strength. Now let's talk about the self-defeating thoughts, what we call, as therapists, we call stinking thinking. Okay. We have something like 60,000 thoughts a day, at least. Okay, most of them, I mean, how many thoughts do you really focus on? Not very many. We pick and choose what we want to focus on, and a lot of it's negative thinking. You don't pay attention to all of those thoughts. We tend to pay attention to the negative ones. We are, the research shows, hardwired for negative thinking. But we can change that. We can change the way the brain works by positive thinking. So those thoughts that we have can keep us in a state of anxiety, depression, fear, and some of them are not even accurate. They're not logical. Okay, our thoughts cause our emotions. So if you think about it, think about a roller coaster, and there's somebody on there having a really good time. Their hands are up in the air, they're waving, they're having a great time. What do you think their emotion is?
Excitement.
Yeah, excited. They're happy. What might they be thinking?
I'm scared.
They might be scared, but since they're having a good time, they're probably thinking too, something like, this is great. This is fun. Can't wait to get off and do it again, right? So when they get off, they might get in line to do it again. So they had a thought, this is fun, which caused their emotion. They were excited, and it informed their behavior. They got back in line. Now there's somebody on that same roller coaster hanging on for dear life. What's their emotion?
They're scared.
They're scared. What might they be thinking?
I want off.
I want off of this thing. So when they get off, do they get back in line to do it again? Heck no, they go off looking for a deep fried Oreo or a lemon slushie or something, right? They don't get back in line. Same event, two people had two different thoughts, caused two different emotions, and informed two different behaviors. Okay, and then there's me, and I'm down here on the ground because you're not getting me on that flipping roller coaster in the first place, and I'll tell you why. My emotion is I'm paralyzed with fear. And what's my thought? I'm going to die if I get on that roller coaster. So what's my behavior? I don't get on the roller coaster. I take someone with me, Karen, to go on vacation to ride the roller coaster with my kids because I'm not going to do it. Now, Karen, that's not, you're on here. That's not the only reason I took you on vacation. That's not it, but it's a good example. Now, you have to take a look at that thought. Am I going to die if I get on that roller coaster? 99.99999% of the time, I'm not, am I? But that thought is keeping me paralyzed in fear, and it's keeping me from doing something, getting on the roller coaster. Now, I don't particularly care because I don't want to ride the roller coaster, but if I wanted to, I could change my thoughts enough. It would change my emotions, and I could get on the roller coaster. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? Our thoughts that we have about a situation will cause our emotions, and it will inform our behavior. So there are some people at home, alone, that are thinking, this is horrible. I can't wait till this is over. I just want to see somebody. I'm tired of watching TV. Hold on, I just got a notice that my laptop is running low on battery, so I plug it back in. And what's that going to do to their emotions? It's going to make them depressed, right? And what will that do with their behavior? Well, that's where it comes into play that we might start not taking care of ourselves. We might start drinking too much or smoking too much or at all. And so our thoughts about it causing our emotions and informing our behaviors. Whereas somebody else being at home alone might say, well, this isn't great, but now I've got time to do that jigsaw puzzle I've been wanting to do. And I got time to read all the books that I've been wanting to read. And so what do those kind of thoughts have, kind of effect do they have on your emotions? Well, it makes me not quite as depressed about it. And it makes me start to deal with it and start to do those crossword puzzles. And I have started reading my book list and things like that. So by changing the way we think, we can't change the situation. It's still the same situation. I'm not saying that. But if it makes us feel better about the situation, that's what's important. Okay? So some of the other things we can do about it, joining a virtual book club or group. I have a few resources at the end of the presentation also that might help with that. It's a good time to practice some good sleep hygiene. You can talk with a counselor about it. You can look it up online. There are ways to get better sleep, which is a very important aspect of our self-care, what we have to do for ourselves right now. You can focus on your pet or get a pet and distract yourself. Anything you can do to distract yourself is going to be very helpful. Okay? You're not just wasting away your time, you're actually doing something about the situation. And you're coping with it better, okay? Because those are coping strategies. And above all, kind of do something meaningful every day and write it down, journal it, so that you can look back at this past, well, maybe not the past 9 months, but you can look forward to it in the next few months that we're still probably going to be home for a while or more isolated than usual. And look, reflect on them. And you can see that you actually did get something done today and yesterday, and you'll have something planned for tomorrow. Except don't put too much pressure on yourself to make that an uber project, remember? Be compassionate with yourself. Okay, so today you got up and you showered and you did your hair. Good deal. Okay, give yourself some credit. Okay, and something that I talk about a lot as a therapist is implementing self-care plans. If you think of yourself as an emotional bank account and you give out emotional and physical energy every day to a spouse, to kids, maybe to parents, your job, your pet, taking care of the house, you keep giving out emotional and physical energy. If you don't put something back in, pretty soon you're writing bad checks. Your account's empty, right? And I've talked to some young kids about this, and I've even found a couple that don't know what checking accounts are. So I've had to say something like, well, your debit card is empty. You know, you need a reload because you won't have anything to give out if you don't put something back in. Okay? So this means doing something for yourself every day that makes you feel good. Okay, and you write it down. So I ask clients to make a list of 10 things you can do to treat yourself and do one a day. Now, it can't be a trip to Aruba. It can't be right now, right? Because we can't go there. But something that you can honestly do every day. So it doesn't have to cost a penny if you don't want to. For instance, on my list would be something like sitting down and reading whole 2 chapters in a book instead of getting up to go tend to the laundry or get up to go cook dinner or something like that. Okay. Very simple, easy things that you can do to treat yourself. So you can do things like spending time outdoors or exercising. Use that candle, light that candle that you've been saving. Use the good china, build a fire in the fireplace or the fire pit. Treat yourself to a really nice meal that you've made and go sit down and light candles and eat it, even if it's by yourself. Watch some favorite TV shows or read. Cook some healthy food. The important thing here to notice is that when you're doing it, You need to savor that enjoyment, savor that time, savor that situation, that event. Okay, so if you're sitting down and reading the 2 chapters in the book, man, when I finish those 2 chapters, I'm going to really pat myself on the back and say, you finally sat down and read 2 whole chapters in a book, Jan, good for you. Or go outside and walk around the block. Okay, read, listen to some music and dance. Nobody's watching. Okay, reaching out to people, but savor that, because the research shows us that the more positive thoughts we have, we can change the way the brain works. And when you savor something, like maybe you saw the kids, the grandkids on FaceTime, sit down for a minute afterwards and really reflect on that and say, you know, that was really good. I can't just imagine not doing that. That was so much fun. And you know what? Next time I'm going to ask them about that toy that they showed me today. Really savor that amount of time. Part of a self-care plan, I think, too, is a gratitude journal. Now, I would really love to take credit for this, but I have to give credit to Oprah, because she's the one that brought it to my attention. Start a gratitude journal and write down 3 things every day. It's good to do this at night before you go to bed. 3 things that day that you were really, really grateful for. And it puts the mind, again, in a more positive reflection, might even sleep better. Okay. So that was a really important one. And when I started it, my gratitude journal, it was simple things at first, like, yeah, I've got a roof over my head. I've got a job. My kids are healthy, things like that. But as the time went on, it really developed into something more important, in a way to really kind of look at yourself and get to know yourself a little bit better. Exercise is a good one. I mentioned yoga. Yoga's a good stress reliever. Is anybody laughing at that one? Because I hope that they are laughing at that particular slide. Okay, and excuse me for stopping to take drinks. But and another thing to do is start planning for the future. Okay, make a list of things that you want to do in the future. Make that bucket list that you want to do. Take each area of your life, like career, family, personal growth, and make a goal list for those areas. This is a good time to reflect on what you really want to do with your retirement. If there are any goals that you want to approach with your family. Personal growth is a big one right now. There's plenty of time to work on our personal growth and different ways in which to do it. So I think that's an active, proactive way of taking some of our power back during this time and doing something fruitful with it. And plan a fun event for when you're out of isolation. Just like I always do in the winter, I start planting my herb garden. Okay, or get a plant. You know, have somebody, if you can't go out, have somebody bring you a plant to nurture during this time. So plan for the future. Okay. Okay, that's not what I wanted. So let me see if I can go back. Well, I've lost a slide. But the only other slide I have is about conclusion, trying to wrap everything up here. So and I'm missing a really important slide. So darn it. And of course, I can't figure out how to do that. So in conclusion, I think what I really want to say is that one good thing that's come out of the COVID-19 is that loneliness is now something that people are talking about. They're researching, they're trying to do something about it. And we can also talk about it now without blaming ourselves, because I think there was a stigma attached to being lonely. And if it kind of made sense that if, well, you were lonely, well, that's your own fault. Okay, get up and do something about it. Well, we know that that's not completely accurate, even though there are some things you can do about it. But we've also found out through this pandemic that loneliness has been there all along. Okay, anyone, anywhere, of any age group can experience loneliness. And it's time to look at that a little bit more closely and stop blaming people for being lonely, stop blaming ourselves. Okay, we still need more research to reduce the adverse effects of loneliness. Excuse me, and I think that by becoming aware of some of those health consequences, we can start then by trying to avoid some of those. And that is really about all I have to say. I have some references, and I guess, Michelle, these are going to be able to be looked at later, correct? Okay, I don't hear anybody, so I hope I haven't lost people.
No, you're good.
Okay, I'm still there, good. So the quarantine book club, hold on just a second. I think it's a great idea because I've been looking for a book club, and of course there's nothing you can do about that right now except join this quarantine book club. They have weekday virtual gatherings. I believe there is a $5 charge for these. And I don't know how it's arranged, but I'm assuming it's something like a real book club. And hopefully that could be interesting to some people. The Met Museum has some virtual concerts. Not the Met Museum, the next one, the What to Do at Home streaming art museums and concerts. They have some virtual concerts. The next one, they have some dance theater recordings that they do. And the Met Opera has opera performances every night for free. Then there's some remote learning educational opportunities. The playing cards, where you can play cards online with someone else. And the Cyber Seniors I thought was a good resource. They have book clubs, lunch and learns. Of course, you have Ollie. And then Senior Planet has some interesting activities to do online. And then there's some workout videos that the National Institute on Aging has put online for people to participate in. Sorry to say I haven't looked at that one, but anyway. And you know what? I guess I do have my in conclusion slide to show. My notes were out of order, not my slides. But I want you to know that there are places to help if you really feel like you need it. And if you feel like your mental health is suffering, call for help. If your coping behaviors become unhealthy, turn for help. And definitely, if you have suicidal thoughts, ask for help. You can call an online therapist so you don't have to go into anyone's office. Most of the offices around here, the therapist offices, are all virtual anyway. They're all on Zoom. And that's an easy process to set up. Or call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Okay, are there any questions?
I think you've made a lot of really good points, and I'm so glad that we were able to be part of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No questions? Let me ask you one then. Was the information helpful, or were there maybe one or two things that you hadn't thought about that might be helpful for yourself or for someone else that you know?
You know, I think it was helpful, but it was also reassuring in some ways, you know, because a few things that I'm sure we're all doing, we think, oh, I don't know, but it was reassuring to hear that this is a positive thing we're doing, you know, now that we're kind of isolated. So not only helpful things you presented, but also kind of reassuring some of the things that you said as well, you know, that you think,
and to give yourself credit, and to give yourself credit for those things, right? Pat yourself on the back that you're doing something proactive. Right.
Yeah.
I think the message about being gentle with yourself, especially for those type A people that want to get everything done but don't feel like doing it, you know, I think.
Do you know anybody like that, Eileen?
Yeah, me.
Okay, I didn't say that, but yeah.
At first, I thought it was heaven to be home and just read and do all of the things that I didn't do because I was out in the community, and I enjoyed that. Trust me, I really enjoyed that. But then, as I looked around at a house that I've lived in for 50 years, and at my age, I need to think about decluttering, getting rid of papers from the covered bridge in 1960. Then that wasn't so much fun. And then I really, you know, so it's just finding that balance of doing something really worthwhile and positive, and still enjoying doing nothing.
Exactly. There is a balance. And that's why I say, you know, do one thing meaningful. And if meaningful was writing in your journal, then that's what it is. If it was cooking a meal, then that's what it was. And give yourself credit for that. I did start to bake bread. Nobody saw my efforts on Facebook because there was no way I was going to post them because they didn't turn out all that great. And so I'm not going to compare myself with those people. Okay.
Yeah. No, it was a good presentation. There was some, the gratitude journal I thought was really, really something I need to focus on.
Yeah. Like I said, I wish I could take credit for that, but I don't. And you can get yourself a nice journal, and, you know, and I do understand some people do not have the resources to purchase books to be sent to their house, or to get a ride to the library to pick up a book on hold, or and I think if we can reach out to some of those people, if you know them, I think that would be helpful too. That would be very meaningful.
I have one question that I want to necessarily ask everybody. Then I have two questions, but I'm going to start with just the one. I know for me, I'm kind of like Eileen, and I had a tendency to, you know, try and do everything at one time. And then I became very overwhelmed with trying to do everything at one time. So what kind of down stress, I'm still staying active, I'm still, you know, doing something, have you necessarily found that you enjoy? For me, it's been puzzles. And in all honesty, I'm such a type A personality that even puzzles have a tendency to stress me out every once in a while. But I have enjoyed putting puzzles together, and we do it, for me, as kind of as a family thing. So has anybody else come across something maybe that you haven't done for a long time that you've started redoing, you know, that maybe somebody else would enjoy?
If Joe,
go ahead.
If you have Netflix, I don't have cable. I only have TV for Netflix, and there is a program which shows a fireplace burning, and that's very calming. It really is. Especially the big TV.
Great idea.
Yeah, there are three of them. One has 3 episodes, so it, you know, you can turn it on, leave it on for 3 hours, and the other 2 are just 1 hour 50 minutes long, and you can hear the crackling sound, and that's what first thing I do in the morning, since I don't have cable TV. My only source of news is my little radio, so I listen to NPR while I have my coffee and
oh, how nice.
my fireplace on.
How nice.
I think it's a great idea, Rebecca. I mean, it feels kind of homey and cozy because of the fire, and it's very relaxing to look at a fire, whether it's real, electric, actual wood, everything. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and you don't have to light it, you know, just turn your TV on.
You turn it off and go to bed.
No ashes.
Michelle,
You know, I've been doing more crossword puzzles,
Yes.
and also I've gone back to meditating. I used to do that a lot, and I had kind of stopped doing that. And that is so easy to do. You can do it in your lounge chair, you know, chair meditation. You don't have to get down on the floor and assume lotus position. It's very easy, and the research that has come out of meditation study is so incredible on the health benefits in every area, because what it does is decrease stress, and stress has an effect on all parts of our body, and the meditation helps conquer some of that. So even a few minutes a day can be very calming, and there's a lot online about how to do mindfulness meditation.
Michelle?
Go ahead, Bob.
I joined a plant-based book club that we meet on Saturday afternoons, and it's international in scope. And the fellow that narrates it is also a concert pianist. So what happens is we discuss a chapter in a book on plant-based nutrition, and then sometimes there's cooking that goes on during the book club, but at the conclusion, he'll play some music to relax everybody that logged in. And it's really an interesting hour and a half. And then if you miss it, the next day, he sends a link for a recording. So if you couldn't see it that day, you could play it sometime during the week before the next book club. So I found that to be somewhat entertaining. I have an interest in plant-based nutrition anyhow, and I thought it was a good find for me.
Nice.
Can you send us the link on that?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Bob, you can actually put that out in chat if you want, or you can just shoot me an email with it, and I'll forward out from there.
Yeah, I'll send you an email. His name is Gustavo Tolosa. He's from Argentina. And if you look up on YouTube and type in Dr. Starch or Gustavo, and I think it'll list you, and he's got all his YouTubes and all that videos on that link. But I'll see if I can find something more direct.
That'd be great, thanks. My second question that I wanted to pose to everybody, and I think we actually talked about this last month, and in all honesty, I apologize because I let the ball slip on it. I am going to send an email out as soon as we're done with our presentation today, and basically ask anybody who wants to be involved in a phone tree for Christmas. I know that, you know, we've been doing a lot of programming. I mean, in all honesty, I see several of you a couple of times a week. But officially, Ollie shuts down next week, and we're kind of closed for about two and a half weeks. So I wanted to kind of give the option of anybody who's interested in kind of being part of a phone tree to just check up on some others, that opportunity. And I'll only share it with the people who are interested, and it'll just kind of be a very small group. But if you are interested, or, you know, friends that aren't part of our presentation today or anything like that, tell them to check their email, and I won't add anybody to it unless they send me back an email saying, please add me. And you can be added in whatever way you want, whether it's an email or a phone number or however you want to do that. But I think that during the Christmas holidays, so many people aren't going to be with family for the first time for a long time, that, you know, you're kind of like your own little family within yourself within Ollie. So this kind of gives you another option for that. So let me know if you're interested.
Sounds like a good idea. I have a question for Jan. Can you teach meditation on Zoom?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
I guess it is, Eileen. Thanks for signing me up for that.
Very good.
I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there are some YouTube videos also.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think we could do that. Yeah.
At least, you know, get us started.
Yeah.
For those
Michelle,
people,
is that possible?
Definitely possible. That's just a matter of us kind of getting a date and a time set, and then I'll make everything else happen from that point. I will tell you, Eileen, as a type A to type A, the first thing you need to know about meditation is don't beat yourself up over the fact that you can't concentrate and not think about something.
Okay.
Definitely. In fact, people think that, because I have taught meditation before, and people think that you have to make your mind absolutely blank. And that is not the goal of meditation. No, definitely not. You're going to have thoughts during that point in time. It's just what we do with them at the moment. So no, that's not the goal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds very, very interesting. Very nice. That would be great. I would like to participate in it.
Okay. Well, we'll see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
for those people that are interested in borrowing books or movies from the library, check their website, because you can, if you have a library card, you can do that. So it can be online. You don't have to have the physical book.
Mm-hmm.
Is the library open at all?
Yes, it is.
It is?
It is open, but you can also request a book, put it on hold, and you go to the library and park in a spot, and they will bring it out to you. I did that for months. Did it for months.
Do you just call then when you're there, or do you set a date and a time? How does that?
Do you have access to go online and request a book?
Yes.
Put it on hold, and then you have to wait until it becomes available, because it might not be available.
Right.
And when you get to the library, you call.
I see.
And tell them your name, and they bring it out to you.
I see. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jan, this was great. Really, thank you.
It was very nice. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were type A person.
You know, though, Jan, when you were talking about projects and things, I find myself, I started trying to go through, I'm third generation only. So I've had my mother things, her mother things, my things, married for 40, let's see, how many years have we been married? 43, 44 years. And I started putting some of their children's pictures together, you know, and some of their awards and so on. So I'm thinking now, oh my gosh, when I get out of COVID, I haven't finished, you know, so now it's like pressure to think, I've got to get this done. So isn't that terrible? You know, I mean, it's like kind of in reverse, putting pressure on myself, I guess, you know?
Well, remember that metaphor I gave about or the analogy of the Chinese finger trap.
Yes,
you know, when you pull yourself like that, you're making yourself kind of dig deeper. You resist it. Yeah. So give in to the fact just a tiny bit. It doesn't mean you have to quit, but it just
right. No.
Say, the end is not near if I don't finish this project.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. That really helped me.
Yeah. I can relate to that with the photos. My mother passed a year ago, so she had boxes upon boxes of photos.
Yes.
Nothing was organized.
Yes.
So I got all of those, and I had all of them from my mother-in-law when she passed.
Yes.
So I went through some of them, but it's so overwhelming that I actually just put them in a guest bedroom and just left them there in boxes.
I understand, Debbie. I understand. It's like, oh my,
it's overwhelming.
I called it. Yeah, it is. It is. But, you know.
And not really something to look forward to. I mean, it was fun once I did it, but it's like, you know, it's not knowing what to do with things. I have a tendency to hold on to things I shouldn't.
I think a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Can you remember to try to break those big projects down into smaller pieces?
Right.
And so when you get that one piece done, you can check it off the list, which is good for list makers like myself.
Yes.
What's the next part? Well, now I have to do this, 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 and this. And then when that's done, you can check it off, and you can take a break in between the different parts of the projects.
Yes, I think I definitely need to make a list of priorities of things I need to do. That to me seems like a good project to do in January and February when there's absolutely nothing else to do. But, you know, I'm getting ready to have a new grandbaby, my last grandbaby here any day. So I'm getting ready to go and help her. So I'm really excited about that. Which is something really nice to look forward to for Christmas this year.
Yes,
you know, to be with them and be with my grandsons who are at that age where they're just going to absolutely love Christmas this year. So
wonderful.
Looking forward to that.
That'll be wonderful.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments, anything anybody else wants to share? I want to thank Janice for a great presentation. I think she's kind of given us tools. Nice. I am going to share this video, so it did get recorded. And I encourage you, by all means, share it with other people. I send it to you, forward it on to somebody else. Because I think that the information is good and it will help. So by all means, share this specific. I'm not telling you to share all my Ollie stuff, but this is a good video to share. So thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your listening.
Thank you, Jan.
And feedback.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Thank you, Michelle.
Good to see you, Jan.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe. Stay well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Everyone have a Merry Christmas.
You too.
Yes. You as well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again.
Thank you.